You guys ready to start?
Born ready.
Let's get it
All
done.
right. Welcome back to the High Five. Josh, Brian, and Brett here to bring you the latest and greatest rankings for anything and everything. If you want to know what is the best, you've come to the right place. Guys, I feel like I've been inundated with sports this year. I went from the Niners losing the Super Bowl right into the NBA, and then the NBA playoffs right into the Euro Cup and the Copa America. And now there was a bit of a lull, but we're gearing up for the Olympics. We're recording this on the day of the Olympics opening ceremony, which I was just watching. And it was, as one person described to me as it was going on, an acid trip. The ceremony was pretty strange. Didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I fully expect the U.S. to dominate. I don't think we have many celebrity athletes going this year, aside from maybe Simone Biles leading the way, and then a couple of the basketball players. It doesn't really feel like they're like true Olympians, I guess, even though they are because they're so famous already outside of the Olympics. But Simone Biles really feels like a celebrity Olympian to me. She'll probably be our opening ceremony flag bearer if I were to guess. But I guess I can't remember
I
who
think
who it was
LeBron
for
is.
us. LeBron is. Um, so I was just thinking, Josh, if we could, I don't think Philly has hosted the game, so I was wondering if you had a quick side ranking of where the Olympics fall in your ranking of sporting events. Like, would the Olympics make your top five overall?
Oh, good question. Clear oversight by the Olympic Selection Committee that Philly has not hosted. The next games will be in what, 2028? It would have been a great opportunity to have them in 2026, maybe like move them up 2 years for the 250th anniversary of the U.S. We're getting the baseball All-Star game. There are rumors that we might get some other major events. We're definitely going to host the World Cup games. So yeah, it just feels like Philly should have already hosted an Olympics. Although we do host the Penn Relays every year, which, pretty close, I would say, to the Olympics. So you're asking me top five sporting events? Like, I think Olympics would probably be in my top five. No, in no particular order. I'm thinking Olympics, World Cup for sure, Super Bowl, the NCAA tournament, and then I got to pick one. I love the NBA playoffs. Hockey playoffs are surprisingly really good. I feel like I'm skipping something. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go NBA playoffs as the fifth.
Yeah, I would go World Cup first, and then the Olympics. I think right below that in terms of events. Brian, how about you?
I think the Olympics helped me get into it, like as they're like the 2 weeks that they're going on. But then, it's like every 4 years, I'm like, man, I should really take some like competitive swimming classes. And then I just like forget about it. And same thing with the World Cup. It's like last World Cup, I bought a soccer ball. I just never used it. So I think I like the watching like when the athletes really dominate, like and you'll see that in some of my top five picks that like when people just blow away the rest of the world. That's probably my favorite part. And then I think I also like this one because it feels like I'm like especially interested in USA basketball falling apart because I think Joel Embiid is gonna fuck it up, obviously, and it kind of seems like he was sent as like us to sabotage Team USA, maybe from South Sudan. I know he's from Cameroon, but it seems
Oh,
like
okay, Gilbert Arenas.
he was sent to really throw a wrench in things. So I'm curious to see how that works out for Josh.
I think he was sent by everybody that is not associated with the 76ers, hoping that he would get injured because that seems like what's going to happen to him.
It's true.
And then the Sixers will have no hope, even though they did have a pretty good offseason. But yeah, I'm excited for basketball. I'm always excited for swimming
Yeah.
because we do so well in that. One of my favorite childhood memories was when there was like the 4x100 men's relay versus France, and the U.S. pulled it
Oh,
out like at the very end. I watched that with a bunch of my friends in my parents' basement, which is actually where I'm recording this episode. So some nostalgia for me in the Olympics for sure.
I watch that once a week just to get fired up.
Yeah, wasn't the
Um,
last guy for France like the world champion in the 100 meters, and we still overcame a slight deficit to beat him.
Sorry, I didn't follow that.
I think when it came to the fourth leg of the 4x100, we were slightly behind France, and they had the world champion or the gold medalist in the 100 go, maybe the world record holder even. I don't remember, but we had some schlub, by Olympic standards, and he caught the French guy and overtook him.
Yeah, it was a big comeback. Just makes you feel real like proud of America when things like that happen. At least I do.
I think what I enjoy the most about it is knowing that these people invest so much into like July 2021. The people that are in the Olympics right now were like waking up at 6 a.m. and just going like training for this time and like the trials, like because we don't see like the actual qualification, I don't think, like at the wherever the US or the countries hold like the Olympic trials. But just knowing that those people are like in the shadows, like not making any money but training for this moment is pretty it's hard not to respect that.
Yeah, they're definitely grinding. The swimmers were in Raleigh, Josh, where you're at, in the lead up. My cousin out there took his son to go meet some of the Olympians as they were gearing up to make the trip over to France.
Yeah, they sometimes televise the preliminaries, the swimming and the track and field. I've watched some of that before. It used to be a bigger deal, I feel like, when, again, we had athletes who could compete in the, say, 100 meter.
Yeah. All right. Do you guys want to try out the new segment here? It would be a bit of a diversion.
Let's do it.
All right. So we're trying out a new segment here. I'm just going to do a quick top 5 and get the reaction from Josh and Brian. Maybe they'll throw together their own top 5, but
we haven't heard this one before. This is brand. We're hearing it live.
Yeah, this is new to Brian and Josh. They don't know what's coming. So I'm just gonna rattle off the quick top 5. Maybe we'll come up with a branded name for it or a sponsored name once we get some sponsors going. But we're going with in light of JD Vance not having sectional relations with that couch, we're going with top 5 sexiest pieces of furniture. And at number 5, I'm going armoire because it's French, and I feel like the French is kind of sexy. And if you have an armoire in your place, you take someone back and you're like, oh, check out my armoire. It kind of has a little sexy feel to it. That's number 5. Number 4 is a bathtub with clawed feet. A lot of shots in movies of a woman or a man relaxing, laying back in one of those bathtubs. And I'm calling that furniture because it's not like built into the bathroom. It's like kind of like sat on top of the floor. And then number 3, massage chair. That's for the ladies. And number 2 obviously is a bed. That's where most of the magic happens in cribs at least. And then number 1, we're going with the age-old couch with a glove in between the cushions at number 1. So that's a quick top 5 sexiest pieces of furniture.
Can I add in my take on this clawfoot bathtub?
Yes.
And I used one for the first time when I was traveling in London, and it was extremely impractical. I didn't like the setup of it. Felt like I was in no man's land, and there wasn't like an overhead shower. I felt like I was just I felt like I left dirtier than I entered.
You need like a romance novel or like a tray with some food or like a cigarette.
So you can ash into your water.
Yeah.
But the movies do make it look nice.
Yeah.
I think, overall, it's a pretty solid list. I have always wanted to try out one of those bathtubs with the clawed feet on it. I think you could have thrown in boudoir as well as armoire.
What is a boudoir?
Nice, sexy piece of furniture there. It's that might be a room actually. now that I am looking more closely
Isn't that
at
a
Google.
type of photography?
It could also be a type of photography. Yeah, I
It's
guess
French,
it's more
though.
of a room. Yeah, it definitely sounds French. Probably is French. I was also gonna, which could another thing that could be French here, but I don't know if it counts as furniture. Neither did my first selection though. So let's go with it. What about a bidet? Does that count as
Yeah.
furniture?
That's not sexy.
I was gonna go with bidet too.
I don't know. Depends on your definition. Some people like that.
You know,
Oh, I love a bidet, but I'm not feeling sexy with the bidet. I'm feeling like it's a business trip.
it depends on whether it's a standalone bidet or it's one of those add-ons. The standalone
Like,
ones do look like they do look pretty elegant.
Like where you have to get up off the toilet, go over to the next spot.
When
Yeah,
it's multi-location.
Yeah. All right. All right, but for our main list this week, we're doing top 5 Olympic games, not the events, so not like ping pong or basketball or canoe sprinting.
Underwater
we're going with
basket weaving.
yeah, we're going with like the overall games, so like the 1996 Atlanta Games or something. So, I believe that we need to hear your criteria before we jump into the list. So Brian, since you're the reigning champ, why don't we start with your criteria for how you're picking
Can I make a prediction before Brian gives his criteria though? I think we're going to have more overlap on our list this week than we've ever seen before. So it could be more strategic of a decision to go first or second this week.
Were you guys texting in a side chat or something? What do you mean? You're gonna you just have that
No,
feeling?
I mean there's limited options to pick from here. A lot of our previous topics you could really take in a lot of different directions. There's only so many Olympic Games. They only come around every 4 years, or twice every 4 years if we're throwing in the Winter Olympics. Unless Brian's throwing in the Paralympic Games, that would be a curveball.
No comment.
Brian, where are you at with your criteria?
So, I've got the most impressive feats. Like the games where you had people doing the most memorable, some of the most memorable performances was a high criteria for me. I think key moments in history. So things that also had like a cultural or political relevance. And then just good opening, like ceremony. I think like good setting of the tone for the games.
Okay, good opening ceremony. So definitely this year's probably will not be on your list. Okay, cool. Josh, how about you? What were your criteria?
Yeah, pretty similar here. Something extraordinary on the field, and then something extracurricular, something happening maybe off the field or that happens outside the pure realm of the sport.
Okay. All right. So for Brian, we've got impressive feats, key moments in history, and then good opening ceremonies. Josh is mostly just extraordinary on the field or something extraordinary off the field. It sounds like you're going like headlines, like newspaper headlines.
Former journalist, baby. Sticking to my roots.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, since I'm recording this one from my parents' place out in sunny California, I don't have my 5-cent piece with me, but I have a 20 pence Australian coin that I found in a drawer. So
Wait, California is still America now.
I just didn't bring my nickel with me, and I only have one. All right, Brian. You call it heads or tails.
Let's go tails.
It is heads. Josh, you want to start or you want to defer?
I'm gonna kick off this, or I'm gonna receive actually this week. So I'm gonna go first.
Okay, I think I followed that analogy, but
I'm gonna kick off the talking is what I want to say. Also, just to come back to the top list, I just thought of something. How did we not say junk in the trunk? Like a trunk with junk in it. Obviously, sexy furniture. Anyway, let's get to Olympic Games. With my number five, so we're going to count them down from 5 to 1 again, right? Also, I'll give you my number five. It is Atlanta 96. The example you used, Brett, you kind of stole some of my thunder, so F you. But Atlanta 96, main reason there, not really one of my criteria, but a big highlight nonetheless. I went to the 1996 Atlanta Games as a child. My family took me there on a road trip. We went through the Virginias, through the Carolinas. I remember buying fresh mountain air in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Then we went to the games. Michael Johnson wins gold in the 200 and the 400. One of the, I feel like, last great track and field celebrities from the American side. Another great American sprinter and just track and field celebrity, Carl Lewis, closes out a spectacular Olympic career with another gold in the long jump, defying age and the odds. I think he won gold at 4 different Olympic Games, potentially. Somebody fact checked me on that. And then there was Muhammad Ali doing the torch ceremony. Pretty sure there was some archer involved shooting a flame, and that was cool. And then some off the field, some rando gets blamed for a bombing. It comes out looking like a total goofball. I don't know if they actually caught the people responsible. I think they ended up catching them, but pretty memorable.
Yeah, that's a solid list of events happening in that Olympics. But my association to Atlanta Olympics is just that anytime I go to Atlanta, I see some Olympic stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, the Olympics were here. I don't remember a lot of those stories though. But now that you say it, I do remember Muhammad Ali lighting the torch. That was a pretty cool moment. Brian, how about you?
A shaky lighting, I heard. That one's solid. The 96, that was under my honorable mentions list. I think one of the biggest, probably the biggest event to happen at the 96 Olympics. For anybody with the pulse knows that was the year Kurt Angle, the famous WWE superstar, won the gold medal in freestyle wrestling with a broken neck.
I did not know that.
They were shooting him up with painkillers, like into his neck, up until I think he broke his neck. I think it was either during trials or very early in the Olympics. And then to continue, they were just like, you can either remove yourself or we can dope you up with like steroids and other painkillers, and you can fight through it. And he won.
Wow.
Yeah, Royal Rumble, now thinking, probably should have been on my list of top 5 sporting events, thinking of Kurt Angle. And Mark Henry, was he at the Atlanta Games that he won a medal in powerlifting?
Oh, yeah.
Another former WWF wrestler?
The world's strongest man.
Indeed.
But yeah, good games for sure. My first one, my number 5 is the 1976 Montreal Olympics. So a couple of interesting facts about the 76 Games. It was the first Canadian city to host the Summer Olympics. They were famously plagued with financial issues. It took them 30 years to pay off the money that it took to put on the games, the $1.5 billion. And I think at this point it's probably well known that the Olympics and the World Cup are just like giant scams. Like the cities that put them on just end up in a lot of debt. But yeah, it took them 30 years to pay it off. Bruce Jenner, before she was Caitlyn Jenner, won the decathlon, and set a world record. Set us up for many years of keeping up with the Kardashians. There was notable African boycott. 29 African countries protested the games to protest New Zealand's affiliation with apartheid era South Africa. And then the biggest one, I think the individual event is most impressive. And I think also in keeping theme with great names, Nadia Comaneci scored the first perfect 10 in gymnastics.
She sounds Russian.
She received 7 perfect 10s in the games.
Wow.
She was 14 years old.
Whoa.
Crazy.
Was that a Bella Caroli training?
I don't know. Is
He was.
Yeah,
I
what
think
is
he was
that?
the Russian gymnastics trainer who ended up defecting to the U.S.
Oh, really?
I think he was her trainer. I'll have to look that up. Somebody fact check. We need fact checkers on this show because we're just saying shit.
We need an intern.
Oh,
okay, nice.
That was also the first year that women's basketball was included in the games.
Okay. A lot of firsts in that games. Interesting. I didn't know anything like that related to Montreal, but that's cool. Um, all right, Josh, number 4.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it Canadian here, but I'm going to flip over to the winner side.
A.
Going to go A. Going to flip it over to Calgary, 88. I was trying to think of other Canadian things, and I really couldn't think of anything beyond A. Tim Hortons.
Story.
Story, bacon, maple syrup. Stephen Colbert. All right, Calgary, 88. We get the inspiration for not one, but 2 movies from these winter games, including Cool Runnings with the late, great, another Canadian here, John Candy. That told the story of the Jamaican bobsled team that crashed out at the Olympics. Great feel-good movie. So they didn't bring home any medals, but they captured our hearts and some international fame. And then the other was about Eddie the Eagle, some British ski jumper. I never saw that movie. It looked kind of whack, but still another movie. 2 movies in one Winter Olympics, particularly, not even summer. It seems like pretty good Olympics.
Yeah, Cool Runnings. I mean, that's just a classic. I love that movie.
Never seen it.
Oh, check it out. Also, all of our listeners, if you're listening to this and you're like Brian and you haven't seen Cool Runnings, you need to go see it. You're gonna watch it, Brian, and then you're gonna start hearing references to it all the time. Okay, what year was Calgary, Josh?
88, which is weird because I think there was
88.
also a Summer Olympics that year. So I don't know if the summer and the winter used to be the same year or there was something weird going on and they got delayed. Again, fact checker needed. If somebody's looking for a summer internship, Brett, maybe you could give them college credit. I don't know.
Yeah. The high five podcast 55@gmail.com. Send in your applications. Anything in particular our listeners should put on their applications?
Real-time fact checking, real-time fact checking, I think would be a great item to have.
Flexible schedule.
They could fact check our previous episodes. That could be an impressive proof of work.
Yeah. That's a good call.
General knowledge, good at trivia, maybe.
Yeah, they should be able to do top 5s on the spot.
That's the interview.
Yeah, we just do 25 top 5s with you.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep it moving here. Number 4 for Brian.
All right, I too am going cold with the 1980 Lake Placid Winter Olympics. So the most notable for also a movie inspiration, The Miracle on Ice, when the U.S. pummeled the Soviet Union on the rink, I guess, on the ice, and they won. They went on to beat Finland in the gold medal. There are also some other notable feats. Eric Heiden, an American, he won all 5 gold medals in speed skating: the 500,
Damn.
the 1,000, the 1,500, the 5,000, and the 10,000 meters.
Whoa, just a clean sweep.
If that's not dominance. He set 4 Olympic records, and 1 world record. So pretty impressive. And they also used the first time artificial snow to supplement the snow at Lake Placid. They hadn't done the games there since 1932, so they were returning. And then I think this is fun. This was the first Olympics that introduced mascots, and the famous Roni the raccoon was this game.
Oh, everybody loves Roni.
This was the mascot for the Lake Placid Games.
Roni the raccoon was the mascot for the whole games.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually watched Miracle on the flight out to California earlier this week.
To prepare for
And
this?
I just, yeah. And also, I just love that movie. I saw the person in front of me, like through the seats watching it. And I immediately knew that I needed to see it.
I do have to say, I haven't seen that either.
Oh my gosh. Great movie. I picked up from that movie and then also from Coach Carter. If I ever am a coach of a sports team, I'm definitely focusing on endurance. That's what all these coaches, underdog story coaches, they make their teams the most fit, and that's how they end up competing. That was like one of the key aspects to our run in the 1980 hockey Olympics. It was that we could skate with the Russians. We might not have been as talented and as skilled, but we could skate with them.
Endurance, baby.
Yeah. All right, Josh, you're number 3.
All right. At number 3, I'm going Barcelona 92.
Ooh.
This one is all about the dream team. It was literally Sandman Sativa to a hoops fan like myself. The best players in the world, all on the same team. The best player in the world in his absolute prime, Michael Jordan. And then there was Charles Barkley. He became a global media star really that summer. Some of his quotes from those games are really legendary. And he might have actually become a better broadcaster as he was a basketball player, which can maybe be tied back to that summer. But he was a hell of a basketball player, especially that summer. He led the team in scoring.
Charles Barkley led the dream team?
Charles Barkley led the dream team in scoring, something many people might not know. But yeah, really my selection at number 3, Barcelona 92, is just all about the dream team. Changed, basketball certainly at the Olympics forever, and has really changed kind of who are the faces of the American delegation, I would say.
This will be something for our future fact checker, but before the dream team, didn't we famously lose in the Olympics because we didn't send pros?
Well, for several reasons potentially, but yes, we used to send amateurs. So this was actually Michael Jordan's second gold medal because he won one as an amateur. Up until 92, we sent college players, and for that reason, Christian Laettner was named to the team as kind of a nod to the past, though not one of the best players in the world. Over Shaq, who could have been also was a collegiate athlete coming out that year, and could have been that pick. Would have made the dream team a lot better. But yeah, they gave Laettner the nod as kind of an homage to that past. But I think what you're referring to, Brett, also was 88, I think, when we lost to the Soviets, when they were sending essentially professional basketball players. There was also some shenanigans at the end of that game where they got to replay the final inbound pass at least one time, maybe twice. And I think the great Arvydas Sabonis might have been on that USSR squad.
And one of my favorite anecdotes from that dream team is the famous match of Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan in the pickup game.
Yeah.
Where apparently it was like the best game of basketball anyone in that stadium or in that gym had seen, and it was just incredibly competitive. And it's when Michael Jordan basically took over from the old guard. That's been covered on a lot of podcasts. Brian, you're up for number 3.
All right. I'm going back to the Summer Olympics with a monumental games for political reasons and historical reasons, the 1936 Berlin Games. So this was on the eve of World War II, and the the main theme of it was for Nazi propaganda and for countries, still there were some boycotts, or especially obviously by a lot of Jewish athletes or Jewish athletes who weren't allowed to compete, but it was used by Germany as propaganda to try to show that despite the Nazi regime, they could hold a successful games. So I think the best part about it, or like it blew up in his face, was Jesse Owens famously winning 4 gold medals at the games. So like in Berlin, in Nazi Germany, a black athlete wins 4 medals: the 100, the 200 sprints, the long jump, and the 4x1 relay. This was the first televised games, and it was only local, but it was the first games to be televised. There also were new sports: basketball, canoeing, and handball. And yeah, it was in terms of it blowing up in Hitler's face. I think that's as good as it gets.
Literally, I think in his face. I think Jesse Owens won at least one with Hitler watching live at the stadium and walked out in disgust.
Feel it, Fuhrer.
Is that the famous Fist of Power? No, that's a different one.
Wow, you
Yikes.
Really only prepared for this episode by watching that one movie on the plane.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, Josh, number 2 for you.
Well, conveniently, that was a nice segue to my number 2 selection, which are the games in Mexico City in 1968. Tommy Smith and John Carlos are the 2 athletes you're referring to, I think. Both in the 200 meters, Smith had won gold. Carlos won bronze. When they ascended the podium and the national anthem began to play, they both raised their fists. They had gloves on their fists, and they raised them in protest, calling for racial equity and justice in the United States. And the Australian who won silver between them actually joined in the protest. But the ultimate, I would call that the ultimate stand for justice. Those dudes essentially risked their lives to do what they did in front of all those cameras, and upsetting Uncle Sam like that, and both faced death threats from Americans back home. Other things of note, yeah, certainly that's the lasting image from those games, and maybe the most iconic image, I would say, from any Olympics. There's probably some other images that could compete. Muhammad Ali, potentially from the Olympics, and is one that comes to mind. Maybe something from the Dream Team, but that's really an iconic image from the '68 Games in Mexico City. Some other cool things that happened in Ciudad, Mexico. Outorder won his 4th straight gold in the discus, so 4 straight Olympics, winning a gold in the same event. Dick Fosbury, good name there, wins gold with his patented Fosbury flop, which has since become the standard in that sport. Bob Beamon jumps almost 30 feet in the air forward, 30 feet forward in the long jump. Think about that. That's 10 yards. The guy jumps. Unbelievable.
Could you do it in meters? I don't know what.
Nearly 30 meters. I mean, or no, I guess 10 meters. 10 meters.
This is the Olympics.
I add good. Yeah, it's not. I'm not a mathlete. All right, Brian. And then it was the highest Summer Olympics games in terms of altitude, which might have contributed maybe to that leap as well a little bit.
Yeah, nice. So that Australian that also put his hand, did he know what he was doing, or
he
was
didn't
he
put
just
his
like,
hand
oh,
in
they're
the
doing
air.
it?
I think he wore something or had a sign or like wore a badge or something, but he didn't raise his hand. I don't think he wanted to try to appropriate that moment.
Yeah, because in the pictures I've seen, it's just 2 guys with their hands up.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2 for you, Brian.
Okay, this one Josh already took this one, but I too was going to go with the 92 Summer Olympics in Barcelona. I'll just add a couple things that Josh didn't mention. That's one of the more badass opening ceremonies where there's an archer that like lights the arrow on fire to light the torch. It's really, really cool. There were a couple of other interesting parts. Kobe, the Catalan sheepdog, was the mascot of the games. Josh didn't mention that. The the Soviet Union competed as the unified team post the collapse of the Soviet Union, and then for the first time since 1972, there were no boycotts. No countries boycotted the games, and then since Josh mentioned this earlier, but this was the first time the Paralympic Games were integrated.
Those happen at the same time?
Yeah, they're held in the same city and the same facilities, but they happen after.
Gotcha.
They don't compete against the regular Olympians. That would be unfair.
Okay, so one overlap in the first four. Let me just recap the five before we go to the number ones. All right, so for Brian, we've got 76 Montreal, 80 Lake Placid, 36 Berlin, 92 Barcelona. And for Josh, we have 96 Atlanta, 88 Calgary, 92 Barcelona, and 68 Mexico City. Over to you, Josh, for your number one Olympic game.
Yeah, so I'll just say not as much overlap here as I was predicting. Brett, you're going to have a tough choice. I think we've both done admirable jobs in terms of selecting some pretty solid Olympics, and for good reasons.
Seems like you actually did some research this time.
Yeah, I'll tell you. And my number one selection has not been taken yet. So with no further ado, the Tokyo 64 Olympics are my number one choice. A little bit of a dark horse here, a little bit of a surprise, I would say. It was the first Olympics in Asia. South Africa was boycotted, so they weren't allowed to participate because of apartheid. So the Olympic Committee getting involved. I love a good Olympic Committee story. Guy who lit the flame was born in Hiroshima on the exact day that we dropped the bomb. Pretty amazing. First televised live Olympics was Tokyo 64. So think of how many years the Olympics came out later on tape, or you just heard about it in the newspaper. That changed in Tokyo 64. And without that, there are no Wheaties commercials. If we don't watch these athletes live on TV and get to really know them, or they don't become celebrities, we don't have mildly delicious breakfast cereal. Not really all that good, but the boxes were cool. A Soviet gymnast, which also ironically is one of my favorite Pornhub search terms. Won a then record 18 total medals, including 9 gold. Wow. Michael Phelps eventually eclipsed her 18 total medals. Bob Hayes tied a world record and wins the 100. Then he became a cowboy, which is really the biggest stain, I would say, on the 64 games. Joe Frazier wins the heavyweight gold. Zambia became an independent country during the games. So they went into the games with one identity, and then as Northern Rhodesia, and then left the games at the closing ceremony as Zambia. Pretty cool. And a goddamn fucking bullet train, which neither Elon Musk nor Pete Buttigieg or Donald Trump or Joe Biden have been able to bring. Some fucking high-speed trains at the Tokyo 64 Olympics making their debut.
Damn, Tokyo had high-speed trains in 64?
60 fucking 4. That's 60 years ago for those of you who are doing math at home.
Damn. Interesting. 64 Tokyo, nowhere near my radar. I was thinking maybe one of you guys would have Tokyo, but for the pandemic games as notable. But maybe Brian does. We'll see.
Wow.
Brian, your your number one Olympic Games?
Shocked. I'm shocked by this. I for sure thought we were going to have the same number one. Fun fact, Tokyo was actually awarded the 1940 Games, but because of World War II and the Japanese invasion of China, it was withdrawn. So
That's fun.
good for them, I guess. I'm going with a much more recent, also Asian continent games, the 2008 Beijing Olympics. And I think that one was like, so I remember watching a lot of it live. I remember Michael Phelps, what is at the top of his game before he was smoking weed at the University of South Carolina and getting DUIs. He won 8 gold medals, and I think that's where that France clip is from that we were talking about at the top of the show. Also, Usain Bolt. Those were the games that he came onto the world stage, and just blew people. He stopped running at the end. He was running so fast.
Yeah, that was incredible.
I remember just seeing those two things and just thinking like these people are not human. How crazy athletic these guys are. It was also one of the most expensive games ever. I think they say that they spent $44 billion on the games. I think for reference, the Montreal games were 1.5, and I saw a headline this day that the Paris managed to pull off a relatively cheap, like on a budget, $9 billion for these games that are happening.
In this day of age with inflation. Yeah, it's quite impressive.
Yeah, in Joe Biden's America. Joe Biden's Paris, I guess. And they're so China ended up topping the U.S. in total medals. I don't know what the breakdown of gold versus the others, but they did beat us on that one. And there was a lot of concern about like doping at the games. That I think over time, I don't know that much in the details, but I think there were some medals that were revoked afterward.
Weren't there some allegations that the Chinese were also lying about their athletes' ages?
Oh yeah. There's those allegations are happening now too for swimmers, Chinese swimmers. Yeah, there's some controversy. No, that they're doping.
Oh yeah. So,
in 2008, it was the gymnasts that we were questioning their age.
Yeah. They were pulling a Miguel Tejada, famously older than he tells people he is.
Yeah, who was that kid from the Little League World Series? Danny something.
He was like 16 years old.
Yeah. Just striking people. He had like a curved ball when he was supposedly like 12.
Or like Freddie Adu came on the scene for U.S. Soccer, and everyone's like, "Do we really know how old this guy is?"
I will say Freddie Adu's record of being the youngest player to ever play in the MLS was recently broken by a Philadelphia named Kevin Sullivan, the Philadelphia Union.
He's 14, right?
14 and change.
And he's playing on the A squad.
Yep, he made his debut.
Yeah,
that's crazy young.
Well, I guess while we're on the topic of child labor, Spain just won the Euro Cup.
Yeah,
he's 17 now, but he turned 17 during the Cup. Lamine Yamal.
Yeah,
he apparently had to be subbed out during some games because in Germany, if you're under 17, you're not allowed to work past 8:00. And so they have an exception for athletes, but that's why they pulled him on some games like 70 minutes into the game so that he could like get dressed and like leave before they broke local German laws against child labor.
He had to go home and do some homework.
Yeah, I mean he literally has braces. But he's like had the goal of the tournament.
Can you imagine being a a 30-year-old defender in the prime of your career, and then a guy with braces just blazing past you down the line.
Just hang it up. Just transfer me to Saudi Arabia.
All right. Any honorable mentions that you guys want to share?
I've got two quick ones. I've got the 1960 Rome Olympics, where Abebe Bikila from Ethiopia won the marathon barefoot and was
Oh,
the first
damn.
first African to win an Olympic gold medal.
Barefoot?
Yeah. And then the 96 games were on my honorable mention that we already discussed. And then the 2012 London games for that was I actually don't remember if that France US one was 2008 or 2012 because Michael Phelps was in both. But that was the year that Oscar Pistorius, the double amputee, participated in the games. And then
Before, yeah.
and then lost so badly he shot his girlfriend to death.
Blade Runner.
I was going to say that was pre-murder, right? Premeditated murder.
Yeah, when he's not killing them on the field, he's killing them at home. I rest my case.
That story has some legs, Brian.
All right, Josh. Any honorable mentions that you want to bring up?
Yeah, I was thinking 1960 Rome also because that was where Muhammad Ali, then Cassius Clay became kind of a household name or face. 36 Berlin was one I considered. And then the 2016 Rio Olympics as well, just because there was a lot of good off the field shenanigans. Remember that swimmer was like urinating in public on some building and then tried to lie about, or maybe they weren't urinating, maybe they destroyed something.
Ryan
defaced
Lochte?
something. Yeah, Ryan Lochte.
Yeah. When they said that they were like mugged at a gas station, and then they showed like the camera footage, and they were just being like drunk idiots.
Yeah.
Lochte was a good Olympian. He was entertaining.
That was the first time that I learned that a lot of these athletes go broke doing this. He's got a whole, I think they interviewed him after about how it's just his whole life, his family invested, however much money to just get him to like all of the investment required to get you to be that good. And that, like they didn't really have the same kind of sponsorship opportunities that I think it's gotten better now, but he was just like, yeah, like my family's like $2 million in debt after the games, like after
worth it.
After I won a gold medal. It's like,
well, is it worth it?
If you win the gold, I feel like you could probably make that back, overcharging people, basically putting them into debt for the same things you went into debt for, training and all that stuff.
Becoming a coach and then charging a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I'll let you swim with me.
Nice little pyramid scheme,
But I did while we were talking, I did check it. It was the 2008 games, USA, France.
Okay.
Jason Lezak.
That's right. That's right. Maybe we don't need a fact checker. We just get Brian on there.
14 years later, still the most iconic race.
Yeah, it's anyone listening at this point should definitely go look up that race if they haven't seen it. It's a classic.
Maybe we could just add it into at the end of this episode. Just edit it.
Add it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll leave
we could do that. Just that's how we end the episode. I like that.
Yeah.
You know what we didn't get? When was I might have missed this in '96? Kerry Strug. When was Kerry Strug going off? Remember, she lands from the vault and she had hurt her ankle, and she's hopping there on one knee, tears flowing down her face to help the women gymnastics team win the gold.
Yeah.
Big oversight on my part.
She just needed to finish, right?
Yeah, she essentially just needed to land one more. I think they could have substituted her, but she said she wanted to do it. I think that was '96.
Guys, it's really hard for me to pick between these two lists because they're both really, really strong. And there's no clear terrible picks like there were last time.
Before you decide, did you guys catch this Canadian women's soccer coach that just got fired? because
for spying.
because
A new Spygate.
they tried to do Spygate at the Olympics.
Oh no,
With
I
the
didn't see
drone.
that.
Using
They
the drone.
had a drone.
Yeah.
What? They're trying to film other teams' practices or something?
Yeah.
Classic blunder. Man, I don't know where to go with this on how to pick, but I want to reward Josh for putting in some effort this time, and I'm gonna give it to Josh. I like the stories, Josh. I also think Brian not having seen a lot of really great classic Olympic movies is a big miss. Not really related to the list, but just kind of my overall feeling. Um, and so I'm giving this to Josh. So we're tying it up here 2-2 overall between Josh and Brian. So Josh, you've got your 5 seconds of fame here.
So in keeping with the 64 Tokyo Games, I want to just plug public transportation here. We need some high-speed fucking rail in this country. Fuck Delta Airlines. Fuck American Airlines. Just fuck all these airlines that are screwing me over, making me late to shit, losing bags. Fuck them.
Nice. All right. Anything else before we sign off?
I think it's criminal that Brett has invested more in parody than actually rewarding the people who clearly brought the best lists and bring it every week. But that's the way this world seems to be going. Brett and his mentor, Adam Silver.
There's no joke. Oh, parody, not parody. Got it.
Yeah. Like intentionally keeping it even, holding Michael Phelps back just to make everybody else look good.
That's fair. That's a fair complaint. That's a fair complaint. This is more of like positive reinforcement, like with a dog. I gotta like give treats to Josh when he comes correct,
I got to say, questionable, potentially crooked judging decisions, very fitting with an Olympic theme episode.
Yeah, he Venmo'd me before the episode. All right, let's see if we can end it, Brian, with that edit of the Lezak comeback, and hope everybody enjoyed the podcast. Thanks for listening, and go USA.
USA.